In this video, I'm going to teach you 3 easy steps to rewire your subconscious mind. I think that people online have made this be so overcomplicated and so much more confusing than it needs to be. This is something that I do in my practice all the time with my patients. If you're new to this channel, my name is Dr. Bisleen Atley. I'm a naturopathic doctor, but I'm also certified in cognitive behavioral therapy. And something that I personally do in my practice before I tell any of my patients on how to eat better or how to move better, how to sleep better, or the supplements to take for their body, we always start with the mind first. And something that I address with all of them are the subconscious beliefs that are showing up in their day-to-day life. Because if you don't address the subconscious beliefs that are showing up in your life, you're going to find yourself falling back into the same patterns over and over and over again. And I know you can relate to this. How many times have you started habits that have lasted a few weeks and then you find yourself back in the same spot? And the issue becomes that we find ourselves in this spot for years and years and years. I've literally had patients in my practice who have been trying to master the same 5-6 habits for the past 10 years of their life, and they're just so tired and exhausted of always falling in the same cycle. Because let's be honest, you start this new habit and you're feeling motivated because the new year is right around the corner. So I know you're already thinking about all the 20 different habits you want to start for the new year. So you'll start this new habit and you're feeling motivated and everything's working well, and then what happens? Life drops a bomb on you, because that's exactly what life does. And instead of learning how to cope with it and deal with it and move through it, you end up losing all those healthy habits that you had such a good intention to stick with. You just lose them all. And the issue becomes, if we have not changed our belief about ourselves, if we have not changed who we see ourselves to be, then we will always fall prey to the circumstances around us. Versus when you actually shift your subconscious beliefs and who you believe yourself to be, then it doesn't matter what life throws your way, you will still continue to show up for yourself. So a small example from my life, I see myself as someone who's very healthy. So that means that I work out, I watch the food that I'm eating, I watch my sleeping habits and make sure that my sleeping habits are in check and in line. And this past November, I lost my dog. We lost him. He was 11 and a half years old, and it was such a big shock to our family. It just honestly happened out of nowhere, and it was really heartbreaking and honestly one of the hardest things that I had to go through. But what was really incredible to see through this loss was just how much I continued to still show up for myself. I still did my workouts. I still made healthy choices. Most of the time, there was a little bit of emotional eating. I did my best with that. And I still tried to make sure to get as much sleep as I could get and really rest during this time. In the past, that would have been so different. And it's because it took me a really long time to rewire these subconscious beliefs about health, about who I see myself to be. Because before all of this work, I was exactly like you, stuck in those same cycles of trying to be healthy. And then I would stick to the healthy habits for a few weeks and days, and then something would come up and I would just fall off track. And in the past, if I'd experienced a loss as big as this, I would have completely went off the rails, would have been binge drinking, binge eating, not getting any exercise, barely sleeping. And it wasn't until I actually shifted my internal identity and how I see myself that now I'm able to stick through these healthy habits no matter what happens. And because now I've developed this confidence and this skill, I know that no matter what life throws my way, I will always have my health in check. And honestly, that's the exact same thing that I want for you. So before we dive into the 3 steps, there's a concept that I want you to understand and have a really good idea of, and that stems from cognitive behavioral therapy. So if you're new to cognitive behavioral therapy, essentially what it does is that cognitive behavioral therapy helps you identify those unhelpful thinking patterns and thoughts that show up that then essentially dictate and rule our life, right? Because as a result of these thoughts, you end up acting on some sort of behavior, and that behavior causes you to feel some sort of emotion. Now, what ends up happening to a lot of us is that when we take action on a behavior, we think that this behavior is going to make us feel better, but what ends up happening is that this behavior actually keeps us stuck in that dysfunctional thought, behavior, emotion cycle. And if we are not careful, we will find ourselves stuck in this dysfunctional pattern and cycle for years and years and years. This is why whenever you try to make changes or make new habits, somehow you always find yourself back in the same place over and over and over again. And what a lot of us don't realize is that our brain, and specifically our nervous system, which I'm going to get into shortly, that's literally one of the first steps, is that it can become literally addicted to a certain way of showing up over and over again, right? Because your brain loves what's comfortable. And so the current emotion, thought, behavior cycle that you've developed in your life is comfortable for you. What you don't realize, because we can see the thoughts and the behaviors and the emotions, what you don't realize is that you have beliefs that are driving all of this subconsciously. The reason that you interpret situations in a specific way, the reason that you show up in a certain way and end up feeling these emotions is because there is a subconscious belief that you have about yourself and who you are, and your brain always acts in alignment to who you believe yourself to be. So, for example, if you subconsciously believe that you are lazy, do all the habits, try to be as disciplined as possible. But what's going to happen is that in a few weeks, you are going to find yourself in that same cycle again. Why? Because you inherently believe deep down that you are lazy. So if you're lazy, you're going to eventually end up showing up as a lazy person. Versus, say, for example, like that belief that I've developed now about myself that I am healthy, that I'm extremely healthy. So because that is my subconscious belief about myself, that is how I end up showing up on a day-to-day basis, and my brain is always acting in alignment with that. Why this is important for you to understand is because a lot of us spend so much of our time trying to control our thoughts. Don't lie to me. I know how much time you spend on this, okay? You experience some sort of negative or distressing thought and you just like spiral over it. You spend hours and hours trying to control it, manage it, try to rethink different things. And it feels honestly really, really difficult for you to do that, right? And what I want you to understand is you can only control like 50% of your thoughts. Okay. And this is because we experience automatic negative thoughts. Even me walking down the street, sometimes I'll just have a thought and be like, oh my God, like where did that come from? Your emotions, what I want you to understand is you have like zero control over it. This is the other issue too, is so many of us spend a lot of time trying to control our emotions, and it's like you can't really control them. So stop trying to control your emotions. You can influence your emotions by controlling your thoughts and your behaviors. Okay, so we'll come back to that. But emotions you have no control over. So don't even waste your time trying to control your emotions. A lot of us spend a lot of time trying to control our emotions, and this is what also leads to a lot of emotional distress. Now, the area that we always have control over is our behavior, always. I always tell my patients, you have 100% control over your behavior. The only exception is if you're being kidnapped and you're at gunpoint, and that is the only time you can't control your behavior. Other than that, unless you're at gunpoint, you can always control your behavior. So with one of the steps that we're going to talk about, this is also important for you to understand, because so many of us waste our time trying to control this, and we forget about the number one thing that we always have 100% control over, which is our behavior. So important for you to understand this, because this is going to form the building blocks of the steps that come next. So understanding that your beliefs are what influence how you interpret a situation, which will then determine your behavior, and that will result in some sort of emotion that you are feeling. So something else that we're also going to talk about, and this is going to be the key to rewiring your subconscious, is to start building emotion, thought, behavior patterns in your life that give you more power and control. Okay, so now that you understand the foundations and the basics of the emotion, thought, behavior cycle, let's get into these steps. So step number one to rewire your subconscious mind. I don't know why like enough creators and people don't talk about this. You know, people talk a lot about like affirmations and identity shifting work and but not enough people talk about this one step, which is the most important step. Before you try to even show up as a different person, before you try to think different thoughts, before you even try to build a different life, you have to make sure that you regulate. I was gonna write calm, but I'm like, regulate is a much better word. You regulate your nervous system. This needs to be step number one. If you're not familiar with your nervous system, let's talk about it. All right, this is my beautiful looking person. I'm hoping as I do more whiteboard videos, my artist skills will also get better, but can't guarantee anything. So essentially what your nervous system is, right? You have your brain and you have your spinal cord. Now, in order for your brain to actually get messages from the rest of your body and what's happening, right? Because your brain isn't just in isolation. Your brain is getting hundreds of thousands of messages every single day from different parts of your body. And the way it does that is through these nerves. It's through your nervous system. So your nervous system, and I only showed like one half of a body, but it's everywhere, everywhere. And you have millions and millions of nerves all throughout your body. And all day long, these nerves are in constant communication with your brain, and they're relaying messages to your brain. And also, it's a two-way stream. Right? So they relay messages to your brain, and your brain uses these nerves to relay messages to the rest of your body. So as you can see, this nervous system is very, very important. And the two main important parts of the nervous system I want you to be aware of is the sympathetic state and the parasympathetic state. Sympathetic state, because of the S, I want you to think of it as a stress state. Parasympathetic state is a calm state. It's a resting and digesting state. The issue that happens with a lot of us is that we spend all day being in the stress state. And when you're in the stress state, you're in automatic mode, you're in go, 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 go mode, you are not in conscious mode. And as you can see, when it comes to rewiring your subconscious, if you're constantly stressed out, if you're constantly on the go, if you're not conscious, you can't make change happen. And if you do make it happen, it's only going to happen for a little bit until you bring yourself right back to the same place that you were before. This is why learning how to regulate your nervous system, so learning how to go from the stress state to the calm state, is one of the most important skills that you can practice for yourself. Because it's when you're in the calm state that your brain is out of survival mode, that your brain can have more higher order thinking and actually think about, what version of itself am I showing up as right now? How do I want to act? And you can actually make better choices for yourself when you're in the calm state. In the stress state, you can't. In the stress state, your brain will always want what's fast, what's easy, what's comfortable. That's often junk food. That's often doom scrolling. That's often, not getting off the couch and moving, and it's watching Netflix. And so if you want your brain to stop turning towards all these easy choices, you need to learn how to regulate your nervous system so that you can make the choices that align with you, not just the easy, comfortable choices that feel good in the present moment. Here's something else that I want you to really keep in mind about your nervous system, okay? So say this is the calm state, and say that this is the stress state here. So what happens to a lot of us is that we end up, hopefully you start the day in a calm state. Some of us don't even start the day in the calm state. We start in the stress state. Hopefully you started in the calm state. But what ends up happening is that we start the day in the calm state, something comes up, then we get stressed out, and then we just stay in the stress state all day long. And that's obviously not a healthy nervous system. Something else that I want you to keep in mind is a healthy nervous system isn't one that's in the calm state all day long. A healthy nervous system is actually one that gets into the stress state, then you're able to bring it down to the calm state. Then something else will come up to get you into the stress state, then you bring it down. And all throughout the day, your nervous system is bouncing between the stress and the calm state. That's a healthy nervous system. So you need to actually start giving your nervous system space throughout the day to be able to get out of the stress state and into the calm state. And how do you do that? 3 of the most important things that help you do that. And they are silence, stillness, and slowness. I always show my patients these 3 words, and then we always have a laugh about it in our visits because they're just like, I never do these 3 things. And I'm like, yeah, I can tell, because your nervous system is super effed and you're in a dysregulated state. But that's okay. That's why they come to see me, and we support them. So you need to start taking note and becoming aware of when you're in the stress state. A lot of us don't even know that, right? So start taking note. When we're in the stress state, our heart rate is usually faster. We're speaking faster, we're moving faster. You might be like sweating. So when things speed up, that usually indicates you're in the stress state, or you might even just notice you don't have a capacity to handle or tolerate things anymore. That's also when you probably need to do some nervous system regulation, or you're just overstimulated, okay? We live in an overstimulated world. It's really easy for us to be able to tell when we're overstimulated. That's another sign that you're in the stress state, and you need to do one of these 3 things to get you down. So what does silence look like? Go and sit for 5 minutes and do nothing. Okay, that's also stillness. When was the last time you actually sat and did nothing? Probably never. And a lot of us have trouble with this. Okay, me too. I swear my leg will start twitching when I'm doing nothing, because I need to practice that more as well, because I'm so used to just being on the go and doing stuff. Slowing down, right? If you're gonna go on a walk, go on a slow walk. We're always in such a rush to get somewhere. So throughout the day, find ways you can incorporate these 3 things into the activities you're already doing. That's what I also tell my patients as well. You don't need to find 30, 40 minutes now to do these things. Do these things among the things you're already doing. If you're driving in your car, Drive in silence. I drive in silence all the time now. Such a great way to support and regulate your nervous system. Find some sort of stillness. If you have 5 minutes before a meeting, don't do anything. Just sit and be. I'll do this in between patients all the time. Before, I used to like scroll on my phone, or I needed to get some sort of other little bit of work done. And it's like, no, just learn how to be still and learn how to be. And then slowness, right? If you are washing the dishes, can you just go a little bit slower? If you are, on the treadmill at the gym, do you always have to be so fast? Can we just, be a little bit slow for once, or just get dressed a little bit slower in the morning? So you can incorporate these three things in the activities you're already doing, and those all become little micro moments of time where you get to bring your nervous system down. Once you've regulated your nervous system, step number 2 is to get clear on your new identity. So this is very important, right? Take note that I didn't write here, get clear on your habits, get clear on your action steps, get clear on your to-do list. No, this isn't just about doing things differently. This is about being someone different. Very important to remember, because your brain is always going to act in congruence to who you believe yourself to be. So you don't just need to show up differently, you need to start seeing yourself as a different person. So for so much of my life, I lived in the struggle believing that I couldn't be healthy, that it's hard to be healthy. And so what would happen is that my brain would consistently show up in this way, and I would show up in this way because I didn't truly believe it was easy to be healthy and I could consistently be healthy. But when I started to shift that identity, and when I thought about, okay, what's the best version of Bisleen? How does she show up on a day-to-day basis? And I'm like, the best version of Bisleen, she's in alignment with health. Health is really easy for her. She doesn't think twice about it. She just is healthy. And so that became a part of my identity and who I see myself to be. And why this is so powerful is because when you shift your identity, showing up and taking the action steps becomes so much easier. So when you think about the goals that you want to set for this next year coming up, I want you to think about who is the person that you need to be. Because if you can focus on being that person, the action steps are so easy to do. So to make this be really easy for you, I actually want to share the PDF document that I share with all of my patients and clients. And it has a series of questions in there to really help you get clear on this new identity and this version of yourself. I really want you to take some time, regulate your nervous system before you do this. Don't do this in a rush, because you want the answers to come from an aligned and powerful place and not from a place of stress. So regulate your nervous system first, do some deep breathing, whatever you need to do, and then go through these actions. They'll go through these questions to really get clear on this new identity and this version of yourself. Very important to do, because the more detailed you can be, it becomes easier to navigate different situations, because then all you have to do in your mind is, once you regulate your nervous system, you just have to think about this identity and version of yourself and ask yourself, how would this version of me show up in this situation? Okay, so really get clear on this new identity. And then the last step to all of this is to act in alignment. That's it. When you consistently choose to show up in alignment with this new identity over and over and over again, what starts to happen is that you start to experience the results of this new identity. It just takes a little bit of time for the outside world to catch up to this, right? It's really easy to shift things inside, but it takes the outside world a little bit of extra time to catch up to this. But if you consistently, day in and day out, act in alignment with a new identity, what starts to happen is that your brain starts to believe that this is who you are. If you want to be healthy and you show up every single day and make choices that align with health, your brain is just like, oh wow, this is just who we are, because you've collected enough evidence to show this to be true. I find that a lot of people really struggle with the acting in alignment, and the reason for that is because their nervous system isn't regulated. So if you're finding that you're struggling with showing up in alignment with a new identity, like you're just like, I'm so clear on this identity, I can see myself, I know this version of myself and how to show up, it's just taking action on it, it's because you're in the stress state. And when you get out of the stress state and get yourself into the calm state, it becomes so much easier to act in alignment with this version of yourself. I really want you to honestly commit to this practice for 30 days. At least commit to this for 30 days, and I kid you not, your entire life will change. And then come back and comment on this video and let me know the changes that you experience because you just followed these 3 steps. You will become literally unrecognizable in the span of 30 days if you choose to do this. And again, it doesn't have to be harder than this. I have seen this time and time again, even in my own practice, in my own life. When you just follow these 3 steps of regulating your nervous system, getting clear on the identity, and just acting in alignment over and over again, you will win. And something I want you to keep in mind here is that you don't have to act in alignment 100% of the time. I am not perfect by any means. I'm like far from perfect. But if you do it most of the time, even if you do it 55% of the time, your brain will end up believing in this new identity and version of you. So remember, you don't have to do this 100%. You just have to do it most of the time. And then please give yourself tons of compassion and grace as you move through this. As you move through this, you will make tons of mistakes. You will fail lots of times, but you just keep showing up anyways. And what starts to happen is that your brain has no choice but to believe it. If you want support in applying this process in your life, and if you want more of that holistic approach to really learn about how to support your mind and body so that you can rise into your best self, would I encourage you to use the link in my bio to book a free 15-minute discovery call with me. We can talk about what your health plan and goals will be. And don't forget to also download that identity PDF so that you can really get started on this work.